Hey everybody, nobody's safe when it comes to the Wealthy Idiot channel. If we catch you doing something in a video and we have a different opinion, we're going to react to it. So today's victim is Rachel Cruze. Hey everyone, my name's AJ, this is The Wealthy Idiots. Today we found a video by Rachel Cruze, who is Dave Ramsey's daughter, who is talking about different kinds of debts and the different kinds of stuff that people talk about debts. It's a really interesting video and it's not all bad. She says some really good stuff in here, so we're going to take a look at it together and just have a good time. Let's get to it.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of The Rachel Cruze Show. All right, there's a pretty toxic money culture out there that is full of lies on what it means to be good with money. So people are giving all kinds of money advice and tips out there and what it's like, hey, this is wise, you should be doing this. But in reality, these lies will get you in a lot of trouble. So I want you to...
All right, I gotta stop you right there, Rachel. There are a lot of incorrect things said on the internet about money. I don't know if they're all entirely lies. Sometimes stuff just isn't for everyone, and you got to find out what works best for you. Maybe it's the Dave Ramsey method. You know, as much as I critique Dave Ramsey, it's not because I'm critiquing him because his method is wrong. It's I'm critiquing him because his refusal to accept anything but his method is wrong. Like, factually wrong. There's other methods out there that do in fact work. In fact, if there was a scale of risk, like if this was the scale of risk and everything in between here is all the different risks, and this over here is what Dave Ramsey did when he was younger, just plain stupid, and this is what he says you should do now, there's a bunch of stuff like right in this space that works out really well, that's really low risk, that's, you know, right near the Dave Ramsey without it actually being Dave Ramsey, right? And yeah, it's like once you start playing with that, it's easy to slip, but that's between you and your own decisions here. You got to know yourself and you got to be smart about it. But to say that it's just straight up lies is pretty rough, because I think that she's going to talk about something that we advocate for, and just to say that we are lying is kind of tough. So I don't know, we'll see.
To know the truth. I want you, again, to be able to handle your money where you are controlling it versus it controlling you. So let's go over what some of these people are saying being good with money is. So the first one is, good with money, you should use debt and live beyond your means to motivate yourself. This one always shocks me, but this is a thing. People really recommend that you live a lifestyle or the lifestyle that you want, and then it's going to cause you to work harder to be able to afford it. So Steve Harvey, sweet Steve Harvey, I've heard him say this before. I watched the video and he was like, you should always fly first class.
And guess what? That's what you start attracting to your life. And you start behaving and producing stuff to get you back into first class.
Because once you fly first class, you can never go back to coach, and it's going to really make you work hard to continue to pay for that first class ticket. Or I've heard people, especially in the real estate market, will say, hey, you should buy your dream car. Get your dream car. Go get the car you've always wanted. And that's going to motivate you to work harder so you can make the payments every single month. Okay, with this, you guys, it's like the motivation is backwards. It's not how it should be. You should not, again, let your lifestyle drive what you do with money. What you do with money should drive your lifestyle. And when it's backwards, what happens is you get stuck in that narrative. Okay, I have to continue to work to keep up with my lifestyle. When you're free from that and you don't have payments and you don't have debt and you actually live below your means, you have peace. You actually make better decisions because you're more forward thinking, future thinking than in the present moment of what you want. And it just lines you up to sleep at night, to have less stress. When you say, hey, I'm going to use the money that I earn to fund my lifestyle versus my lifestyle funding and making that what I earn. So living on less than you make, you guys, it's important. It may not be exciting and cool, but it's the best way to live. Another...
Whoa, man. I have never heard that before. Steve Harvey, dude. What are you talking about? That is crazy. Don't do that. Please don't do that. You're not going to manifest, like, income simply because you're living a lifestyle that requires a giant income. maybe it'll put like a stress mode. Like if you're a really high stress motivated person, like if, like those people who write their essays 20 minutes before class starts and they end up getting an A or something, maybe that's the only group of people that could actually be motivated by the fact that they just are like spending money like crazy and then have to figure out how to come up with it somehow on the tail end. But man, that's a crazy idea. I would not recommend doing that. That's not something we advertise here. In fact, I'm in a whole bunch of different groups for investors and high wealth people, and generally, and like, even when it comes to things like nice cars, they don't own them. And if they do, it's a very intelligent purchase. Like they meaningfully buy like used supercars that carry value, and they will, hold on to it for a couple of years, sell it, get another one, etc. And then they can figure out ways to do stuff with businesses in order to write that off on their taxes. So Graham Stephan is a good one. If you haven't checked him out yet, he does something with his Ford GT in the background. He's able to write the Ford GT off because he spends more time in front of it doing YouTube videos and having it be a prop than he does driving the thing. And that makes it a tax deduction. So the moral of the story is most of these guys that are really wealthy, they're not wealthy because they have some extreme lifestyle. They put a fire under their butt and then got there. They're wealthy because they don't spend very much money. Most people are frugal. Even Kevin O'Leary doesn't like going to Starbucks because he knows what the markup is and doesn't want to pay that markup, even with the amount of money that he has.
I never buy a frappe latte, blah, 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 woof, 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 for $2.50. That's such a waste of money. I drink coffee, 1 cup every morning. It costs about 18 cents to make it, and I invest the rest.
That's what the wealthy mindset has, not whatever Steve Harvey's talking about. So, Rachel, I agree with you on this one. I think that you have to like really grow your lifestyle intelligently. And personally, I think you should grow your lifestyle with investments, not with income. And that's part of the financial independence journey. I don't know if she would entirely agree with me on that one, but at least, we're vibing here a little bit. We're vibing, Rachel.
Wise piece of advice people say is take advantage of good debt.
Oh, no.
This is
Now she's going to talk smack about us. All right, we'll see what she says.
everywhere, all over social media, all over TikTok, people saying you should use debt to build wealth. And it's this idea of, if you can go into debt and do something great, like this crazy investment strategy or investing in real estate, what you get off of that, then you can use it to go and pay for other properties. And it's this whole form.
She's saying this sarcastically, but that is exactly what they say. Or what we say too.
Formula. They make it sound wonderful. And when you listen to it, you're like, wow, okay, I can do that. I can do that. But what happens is you're stuck in a cycle of debt. And what these people don't realize, I don't think, is that, man, money is more than just money. It is attached to so many emotions. Like Dr. John Deloney talks about this all the time, but when you are in debt, when you owe someone something, your body says that you are not safe. Subconsciously, you know that something could be taken away. You're working to, again, pay banks, and that's your whole life. And so when that is in you for years and years and years and years, it can eat away at your soul. Like you don't realize that you lose sleep at night when you live in that cycle. And so yes, does it look flashy? Does it look great? Or these people like, oh yeah. Even like their fonts and stuff that they have on like on their profiles. It's like, yeah. It's not worth it.
Is our fonts cool? Do we have cool fonts? I don't know.
It's just not worth it, you guys. There is a freedom to say, hey, I am going to do what I can do with the money that I have and be wise about it. I want you to win. I want you to build wealth, but I want you to do it in a smart way that has a long track record. And so for most people, it's like, hey, invest in things that you know are going to win on the long term. Your 401k, a Roth IRA, good growth stock mutual fund. Like there are places to put your money, and even real estate. I'm not against real estate. Now, currently, as we're talking about this, real estate is insane right now, right? Like everything is shot up, prices have shot up. But there will come a day where sure, maybe there's a short sale going on or a foreclosure, and you're able to go and buy a condo with cash on kind of maybe a crappy side of town that's not that expensive. And that could be your first rental property, and you rent it out and you save up. And does that take longer than just going and taking out a loan and just going big? Absolutely. But your risk is nothing. When you use your money, that's what's key. So you can still build wealth with all the flashiness and borrowing money. The last.
Okay, so she did pick on us a little bit. Rachel, I thought we were vibing, Rachel. No, I guess not. All right, so she's not entirely but wrong, and I'm trying to make this clear a bunch of times because, I think people think because I'm reacting to the stuff Dave Ramsey's saying, I'm not really reacting to Dave Ramsey's plan. I'm reacting to Dave Ramsey's rejection of other plans. And that's the problem I tend to have is that, like, look, there's a lot of stuff that lives on this conservative side that isn't always in terms of being debt free. Now, there is a difference, and this isn't really covered here. And I think this is really important. There's a difference between taking out debt and taking out back debt. So a good example is this. We've said that we were going to talk about this for a while. So if you were a rich person, let's say you started a company and that company went public. Let's say you're Elon Musk and you started Tesla and you own like a crazy percentage of Tesla. Let's say it's like 30% of Tesla. It shoots off. It's worth like, $1 trillion. And so you own 30% of that. It's $300 billion. All right. So you're going to turn around and go take money out. Well, the second you take money out, pretty much all of it is gains, right? Because the original amount you were like given, and then all the growth now is capital gains. You're going to at least pay 20% taxes instantly, right? And you're never going to see that again. That money's gone. So what happens instead if I go to a bank and I'm like, look, I will give you, like let's say I want $1 billion. I'll give you $1 billion worth of my Tesla shares, and you give me $1 billion in cash. And then I'll promise to buy those Tesla shares back from you, and I reserve the right to buy them back from you at a specific rate, right? So the rate could be like 1% or 2% a year. They're like, you charge me that, and that means that I'm allowed to then buy my own stocks back from you. And then so if they continue growing, I still get the growth from that. If the average rate of the market is like 10% growth, and my rate of my rate for this loan that I'm trading for my stocks, I give you my stocks, they continue to grow, I'm going to pay you 2% to hold on to those for me and give me exclusive rights to buy them back, even though they continue growing. You give me all this cash, I'll go do with the cash what I please. And let's say I turn around and invest that into something else, that keeps growing, and then I'm using that now to pay the interest rate. And at the end of the day, I don't pay that 20% taxes. So we talked about how the rich don't end up paying taxes. They pay really low interest rates to banks, which are essentially like taxes, just significantly less, right? So we can do all that, not pay taxes, save money. And the main key difference here in what I just described to you was that I'm not really taking out a loan, or I'm not really taking out debt just to take out debt. Like, I'm not holding on to something and I'm like, I'll get you back, I promise. That's empty debt. So yeah, you lose sleep over that because you're like, how do I pay that back? I have to have a job. There has to be income. But if you take out debt that's backed by something physical, where you're like, hey, look, bank, you own 40% of my house, and then you pay for 40% of my house, and then I will pay you for exclusive rights to buy the rest of my house slowly over time. Slightly different, right? Because they own part of the building, they own part of the property, they own part of the fixed asset. It's not quite just an empty loan. And I can tell you right now, I do not lose any sleep over having this debt. Now, if that's not you, that's cool. You can do what you want. If you feel better not having any debt at all, paying off your stuff, not getting into real estate with leveraging, that's totally fine. But for some of us, we like to look at the numbers, and we can see that the numbers very clearly tell us this is the best way to go. And it is also very, very low risk. It does not have a lot of risk. So if you're looking at it that way, it's hard to go ahead and skip past that if this is something that you're trying to do to really build wealth. So sorry, Rachel, didn't vibe on this one. But let's see what the next one has.
Thing that, gosh, I hear people say all the time is like that they think it's wise, but it can be dangerous, is you need to have a house. You need to buy. Renting is throwing your money away. You need to buy a house, And that, I mean, I've heard that forever. And it feels like as an adult that you've made it when you own a home. Now, long term, do I want you to own a home? Absolutely. Investing in real estate in your primary home and knowing that you could pay it off, yes, that is huge. I think that is so important and something that I want for you, but I want you to do it when it's right for you. And again, right now, the housing market, it is insane. It's crazy. But if you are in a position to buy, I would still encourage you to buy. And that is if you can put 5, 10, even 20% down. If you do 20%, you avoid PMI, which is huge. But you have a down payment and that your payment is no more than 25% of your take-home pay on a 15-year fixed rate. So that's kind of the formula around buying.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap what I'm gonna comment on what she's saying here, because I think we're back to vibing again. But to wrap this back around to her second point there, and what I was trying to say was that there's ways to do this that carry lower risk. And that's what she's saying now when it comes to buying your own home. She just thinks that it's okay to take on that risk on your own home. I think it's actually better to take on that risk in investment properties. So she's saying, like, look, put a higher down payment down. That gives you that buffer in case the market kind of does a little bit of this. Make sure you're not paying PMI. PMI, private mortgage insurance. So you're paying the bank essentially because you're at a little bit higher risk because you don't have that buffer. So you're like, they're going to charge you extra money that you're never going to see again just because they don't have that buffer. That makes them uncomfortable. So putting out a higher down payment automatically makes this more conservative. Then she says, at least 25%. So the rule generally in the market is your housing should cost you no more than 1/3 of your income, your gross pay, not your take home pay, your gross pay. And I believe she's saying 25% of your take home, if I'm not mistaken. Could be gross, but she's even adding it more conservative, because the reason she's saying that is because she's saying, as it turns out, you can get into debt, and it could be wiser and less riskier if you do certain steps, right? Which is what I'm saying. So we're not totally misvibing here. I think we're just misvibing on the part about personal property versus investment property.
Buying a home. Now, is that conservative? Yes, that's conservative. People are always like, oh my gosh, Ramsey, that's like nothing. That's nothing. But listen, I don't want your home to own you, okay? So I want you to be smart about it and have that formula in place. Plus, I want you out of debt completely with a fully funded emergency fund. All of that will give you a huge springboard to go and own a home if you've never owned a home, because again, that should be a really big part of your financial journey. I want that for you, but I don't want your home to own you.
So that's true if you're going to get into like investment properties as well. You got to be consumer debt free, get rid of the car loans, get rid of the credit cards. You have to be good and intentional with money, and you have to know that you're good and intentional with money for some time before you should even start getting into this. And that's what she's saying here. Like, know that you're set up before you even try to start buying a mortgage. And that's smart.
All right, you guys, you can share this video with someone in your life who is talking about money lies out there, or they get sucked into this stuff. This could be a little nudge to be like, hey, watch this video and teach them something new, because we're all about giving you guys the information and the truth to not let money be the thing that keeps you back in life. I want it to be a tool in your life to create a life you love. We say that all the time on the show.
Okay, I think that was the end of her last point there. So I actually agree with her on this one. Your personal residence, and I've highlighted this in other videos, and maybe I'll link to them down below so you can check them out. But your personal residence will always cost you money. Does not matter what you do, it will always cost you money. The only way that you can get money out of your personal residence to do anything with is by taking out debt or selling it, and then you have no personal references, or then you have no personal residence, right? So jumping into a personal residence is something that I think we're kind of taught in society. It's like you work hard in your early 20s, you start your career out, and then you go find yourself a spouse, and then you have 2.4 kids, and then you buy a house and you raise your kids there, and it's got a white picket fence, and the big thing right now is like outdoor kitchens. You got to put an outdoor kitchen in there so that you can grill up with all the family members and everything. And I think the emphasis placed on that is so high that people think that that's a major marker and indicator of success. Right, I've had actual people who have come up to me and have said, like, "Oh, do you own property?" Like that's a and they're talking about personal residence, and that's an indicator in their head that, like, oh, this person has made it. They've made it a little bit further in life. Did they know what they're doing? And the answer is, I don't own where I live. I rent here. And the reason I rent here is because it makes more financial sense to buy elsewhere as investment properties than to buy where I'm living. It costs way more here than it does to buy than it does to rent. So it doesn't make sense for me to buy here. So if it doesn't make sense, don't let the societal pressures push you into it. If you can invest money and you can, push yourself through life and build more wealth and become financially independent, if you put it down in a spreadsheet and you figure out, hey, the best way for me to do that is to live in this like little apartment and to save money, then do that. Like, that's what's going to really push you forward, right? And that's that wealth mindset that we were talking about at the beginning. Most wealthy people have is find ways to not spend money so that you can then take what money you have left and invest it and build that net worth so that you can, build cash flow from things like real estate investments, from dividend payments, from just appreciation on all your assets, and get to the point where like that's growing at a faster rate than what your actual income is. And that's financial independence. And that's where we want you to be. So it makes more sense to sit down and think about it in terms of that than to think about it in terms of I have to get the house. And then I have zero data to back this up, but I've read it several times, is that people tend to be like, if you're going to actually go buy a house, you tend to go buy a house that actually meets what you want, not what you need. Because you feel like, if I want to buy a house, it has to have these things. And you end up spending more money than you should. So be smart about it. Stick to the plan. Get to that financial independence stage. I agree with Rachel on a lot of this stuff. I actually think it's less risky to take out loans against investment properties if you do it conservatively, kind of like she's saying here, instead of your own personal residence. And we'll cover more of that stuff in the future, but pretty good video, Rachel. You got some good stuff, got some good vibes going. So if you like today's episode, make sure you like and subscribe. Check out thewealthyidiots.com. New articles, calculators, information going up there constantly, and we appreciate you guys for stopping by. I'll see you guys next time.